Why does it look like a goddamn Yeti?
I finally found some footprints in the snow. This is my boot print right here. And look at this monster print. Look at them toes.
Aquí está una huella de algo, desde aquí hasta acá.
Y aquí hay más arcos también, mira.
Kind of see the impression where the dirt's got pushed back. Maybe some toes here, possibly.
Winter survival is tough, but today we will show you what happens when a terrifying Bigfoot encounter pushes the fear to another level. You will witness an 8-foot shadow appearing in a remote forest and hear heavy dragging footsteps terrorizing a solo camper. What would you do if the wilderness stared back? On January 6, 2026, TikTok user Julia Rotsky shared a disturbing video recorded during a vacation in a remote part of Vermont. She had gone there to decompress, expecting nothing more unusual than snow trees and isolation. But while loading firewood as the sun was beginning to set, she looked toward the woods and suddenly noticed something standing between the trees.
Okay, no fucking joke. I'm loading up wood, and I look up, and this is what I see. Why does it look like a goddamn Yeti? I'm not down with it. Alright. I think it's time to go back inside now.
In the distance was a tall, dark figure with what appeared to be a human-like shape. Julie estimated that it looked close to 8 feet tall. She never actually saw it walk or change position, but she also admitted she did not stay outside long enough to find out. The sight caught her completely off guard. Her hands were trembling, and after filming for only a short time, she ran back inside. Julie waited until the next day before checking the area again. By then, whatever had been standing there was gone. She did not walk over to search for footprints, explaining that part of her simply did not want to know what she might find. She also responded to people suggesting the footage was created with AI, saying she did not even know how to use AI. According to Julie, if the figure was not something unexplained, then someone may have been deliberately standing in the woods and messing with them. Viewers quickly focused on one detail. Some believed the figure's finger moved, while others said it was only a branch. Julie said her hands were trembling despite the steady footage. So was it just someone in the woods, an illusion, or something unexplained? Uploaded on May 11, 2025. The video comes from Oklahoma Adventures, a channel known for camping trips and outdoor cooking across the North American wilderness. In this episode, the group planned a relaxing outing beside a river where they could cook, rest, and record some simple bushcraft. But the trip soon became unsettling when something large appeared to be moving nearby.
Aventureros, aquí andamos en los territorios del patón una vez más. Nos detuvimos aquí a hacer una comida porque ya hace hambre, salimos muy temprano de la casa y el tiempo de almorzar tuvimos. Aquí en el territorio del patón. A ver si no viene y nos arrebatan
la comida.
La comida.
After hiking through rough terrain, the group eventually set up beside the river, surrounded by thick vegetation and dense undergrowth. With the sun shining and the water flowing nearby, they gathered their ingredients and started a small cooking fire. Corn, wild mushrooms, peppers, and meat were prepared on stones and grills as everyone relaxed and enjoyed the outdoors.
¿Qué pasó, papi? ¿Ya está?
Ya llevo.
Sí, porque ya roja la tripa.
¿Quieres una?
Sí. A salud de ustedes, aventureros.
As the smell of the food spread through the area, however, the atmosphere began to change. Birds that had been calling loudly suddenly became quiet. One member also noticed large birds circling overhead, which can sometimes happen around carcasses or predators. Then something massive seemed to move through the woods just beyond their view.
¿Escuchaste?
No, por estar aquí comiendo.
Algo se arrimó acá a este lado. sabe qué sería.
They could not clearly see what was there, but they could hear it. Heavy footsteps and snapping branches came from near their cooking area. Whatever was moving through the vegetation sounded large and appeared to circle part of the camp. Concerned that the smell of food may have attracted a bear or another dangerous animal.
Tráiganse una bolsita donde tirar la basura. No la dejen aquí tirada.
Especialmente en estos lugares tan fregonzote. ¿Verdad?
Ya.
Bueno. Yo creo que hay que seguir camino, ¿no?
Vámonos.
Que algo se arrimó, no sabemos si fuera un oso o algo, pero un animal muy grande se arrimó para allá, para aquel lado. Bueno.
Vámonos pues.
The group quickly began packing their things while watching the surrounding trees. After moving toward a safer area, one member noticed large tracks pressed into the damp ground. Based on their size and depth, the group did not believe they belonged to a deer or wild boar. The prints appeared bipedal and were noticeably larger than an ordinary human footprint. Farther along, they found something else that caught their attention. Several sticks appeared to form a rough arch pressed into the ground. According to the group, the formation had not been there when they first arrived.
Solamente escuché.
Algo corrió, quién sabe qué sería. Bueno, vamos.
¿Será un venado o algo?
Quién sabe. Vamos.
Aquí está una huella de algo, desde aquí hasta acá.
Y aquí hay más arcos también, mira.
Oh, sí, ese está puesto ahí. ¿No?
Sí, nomás lo atoraron ahí. Mira. Es un patón ese. Está nomás atorado ahí con el otro.
Sí, mira.
Trying to understand what they had encountered, they wondered whether it could have been the mysterious Peyton, a local nickname for a Bigfoot-like creature some believe lives deep in the woods. As they continued leaving the area, the sounds briefly returned. Something large still appeared to be moving nearby, following them without ever coming clearly into view.
Mira, ahí parece como una caidita de agua.
Algo así.
Ahí andan los pájaros.
Ya no se escuchaban los cuervos. Quiere decir que sí era un patón. Bueno.
Se escuchaban los pájaros en los árboles.
The group quickly documented the tracks and unusual stick formation, but chose not to investigate any further. Birds can suddenly become quiet when they sense a predator or other disturbance nearby, although that alone cannot identify what caused it. Could a large animal explain everything, or was something more unusual following them? On April 29, 2013, the YouTube channel Grassman58 uploaded a video titled Bigfoot Tracks Near Colville Way. The channel focuses on unusual wilderness discoveries, but this trip leads him to something he clearly did not expect to find near Colville, Washington.
Okay, it's August 28th, Sunday morning. I came across what appears to be tracks along this stream bed. Not sure exactly what made them, what I'm thinking, but I'll just show you. First impression, you can see I got more cans set up going in that direction. Kind of make out the heel, possibly, maybe even a toe. Then we come over, another impression.
While examining the banks of a cold mountain stream near his campsite, he begins noticing impressions in the ground. Some are faint at first, but others become much clearer as he follows the trail. To show their scale, he places soda cans beside several prints and makes a plaster cast of one of the clearest examples. The footprints measure roughly 15 to 19 inches long and around 7 inches wide. One of the deeper impressions sinks nearly 2 inches into the soil, suggesting that whatever created it placed considerable weight on the ground.
But you can see the stride is pretty good distance from one another. Now I'm not saying that this is Bigfoot, but look at this one again. You can kind of see the heel area right here. But I'm not a foot expert, so I'm not sure. This one is iffy. kind of see the impression where the dirt's got pushed back. Maybe some toes here, possibly. Heel. But this track is very interesting. So I casted it. It's at least an inch and a half in. Definitely some toes here. Couldn't really make out if there was a fifth toe or not, but I casted it just to be on the safe side.
As he continues following the tracks, they appear to come down from the hillside and cross the stream. What stands out even more is the distance between them. Some steps are separated by as much as 5.5 feet, creating a surprisingly long and consistent stride.
Let's see what it measures out to be. 15, it's a little over 15 inches long. About 7 inches again. Distance between center of the toe, or center of the foot, to other foot.
Nearby, he also notices what appears to be fresh scat, although he cannot determine what animal left it. Combined with the tracks, it suggests that something had recently passed through the area. The stream itself creates another question. He describes the water as extremely cold, making it difficult to imagine someone intentionally walking through it barefoot. Yet the impressions do not show any obvious signs of shoes or boots. If a person created them, they would have needed to cross the cold water while maintaining unusually long steps.
So I'm not sure, but maybe it came down from that direction, which is freaking ice cold. Maybe that's the track. I'm not sure. Maybe one there. If that's a toe imprint or not. Kind of kicked up there a little bit. You can see. But not sure. Possible another, maybe a toe. Not real sure about that. Not sure about this. Could be bear. Could be anything actually, I don't know.
To document the evidence more carefully, he compares the dimensions and spacing of the tracks, using nearby objects, including a firearm placed beside one print for scale. The impressions continue to show similar spacing and considerable depth. The video ends without revealing what actually made the tracks. Soft ground can distort footprints and make them appear larger or deeper than the original foot, so size alone is not definitive. Still, what could explain the long stride and barefoot-looking tracks across the icy stream? On December 28, 2020, We Do It Outdoors uploaded a winter exploration from Salt Fork, Ohio. The creator was alone in the snowy woods, following game trails used by deer and other wildlife. His channel focuses on outdoor exploration, so examining tracks was nothing unusual. But during this trip, he noticed a set of impressions in the snow that looked very different from everything around them.
I finally found some footprints in the snow. This is my boot print right here. And look at this monster print. Look at them toes. Look at that thing. Compared to my foot, and there is tracks everywhere. They go all the way down through here. They go all the way back through there. They're going up in that trail. This one is definitely a major crossing through here. This is the very first print I saw. I was walking right beside it. I happened to glance down. I just saw all these prints. Man, there's deer and rabbit tracks everywhere. Look at all these things. Look at, you can see the toes. Look at the size.
The first tracks immediately caught his attention. They were much larger than his own boot prints and appeared to show separate toes. Several continued through the snow in both directions, creating a clear trail deeper into the woods. He decided to follow them. Along the route, he began finding broken branches, including some that appeared much fresher than older damage nearby.
Oh man, there's tracks. Look at the tracks. Look at this. That is fresh. Probably a day or less. Right here too. It's a fresh break. You can see, you can tell the difference. That's something that's been gone for a while. And yes, I am 100% alone out here. I'm gonna try to listen. I want to get down in here a little bit. Here's some deer tracks. That. So this is definitely some sort of game trail through here.
The footprints continued through the same area, giving him a path to follow. After following the trail for about 45 minutes, he suddenly heard a heavy crash somewhere in the brush ahead. He could not see what was making them.
There was a huge crash. I don't know if it was a deer, but I have a feeling it was this old boy. I'm shaking so bad I can't hardly keep the camera still. Did you hear it? Right back in there. I can't see something moving. You hear it? Oh man, you can hear that perfect. This is creepy out here by myself.
At this point, he was alone and roughly 3 miles from his truck. Instead of turning back, he continued. More fresh-looking breaks appeared along the route. He carefully walked around them because he hoped to preserve the impressions and possibly return later to make casts.
Man, I'm getting stuck. This thing had to be, huge to come plummeting through there. That one's still attached to the tree, so he must have been getting it through here. So, look at that. Those are almost perfect. Big old foot tracks. Print. And it goes right up over this log. Look how they just go. This was just a single track. See, these are all definitely game trails, and they're pretty wide open, believe it or not.
The tracks eventually crossed a fallen log and entered an area where several animal trails overlapped. From there, determining the correct direction became much harder. In the thicker brush, he stopped and listened again. Crashing sounds could still be heard farther ahead. He first wondered if some of the noises might be birds, but the deeper sound continued.
I can hear the crashing again, but it's subtle when it does it. Every now and then you can hear a growl. It's back in there. I thought it was birds at first, but it kept doing it. And then there, that subtle growl. I think I'm just pushing it away is all I'm doing.
With temperatures falling and darkness about 2 hours away, he chose to search a little longer, hoping to finally see what was moving ahead. Some viewers believed the growls sounded like warnings, while others thought they were canine. The deer tracks also led to speculation that a large animal may have been following them. So what was waiting farther down that trail? On January 9, 2024, Exploring with Bear uploaded a video documenting another solo survival camping trip. Bear is known for heading deep into the wilderness with limited gear while filming the challenges he encounters along the way. On this trip, he entered the snowy forest to test a homemade heater built from stacked terracotta pots. His plan was straightforward. He wanted to evaluate the heater, prepare an MRE for dinner, and spend some quiet time alone outdoors. Temperatures were around 30 degrees Fahrenheit and continuing to fall as Bear established camp far from roads, houses, and other signs of civilization. Although he was still recovering from the flu and possibly pneumonia, he continued with the trip after spending weeks indoors. At first, everything remained calm. He built a fire, pitched his tent, and prepared the homemade heater while snow fell around the campsite. But not long afterwards, strange sounds began coming from somewhere deeper in the trees.
Something's over there right now. You guys hear that? Do you guys hear that? It's getting closer. It's like something's being dragged. Something is being dragged over there. Well, it quit. Nope, there it goes. That was a long drag. Like, it just kept going and going. But I don't see nothing, but it sounds pretty close.
Bear heard what sounded like something being dragged across the forest floor. The noise started farther away but gradually seemed closer. It was heavy, repetitive, and different from the ordinary sounds around camp. Even more strangely, it appeared to stop whenever Bear moved, only to begin again after a short pause. The pattern continued for several minutes, mixed with breaking branches and what sounded like faint footsteps. Later, while exploring a dry lake bed, Bear noticed unusual drag marks rather than normal tracks. Old furniture and other debris were also scattered around the area. The location had previously been associated with Bigfoot reports and had even appeared on Finding Bigfoot, although Bear said he had never personally experienced anything unusual there before. He eventually returned to camp, made tea, and tried to settle in as darkness took over the forest. While preparing his chili mac, his flashlights began malfunctioning, forcing him to heat the meal directly over the fire. Then, the situation became even more unsettling.
Freaking flashlights are all broke. So I didn't tell you guys, but off camera, I was just sitting here listening. Because right now the light's in my eyes and I can't see nothing over there. But my eyes are starting to get a little adjusted to the dark. It looked like something white. Like I could see, I could make out something white. And I tried to get a flashlight on it, but then it was gone. But I didn't get to see really what it was, but it looked like something standing. It was lighter. Not white, but lighter. It was weird. I don't know how to explain it, really. But when I got the lights on it, it was gone.
While resting near his tent, Bear noticed what appeared to be a faint light-colored figure standing in the woods. It was difficult to see clearly, and remained silent. When he tried to illuminate the area, whatever he thought he had seen was no longer visible. Already weakened from being sick and increasingly uncomfortable with what was happening around camp, Bear decided not to spend the entire night there. He began packing his equipment and preparing to leave. As he packed, the same dragging sound returned from somewhere in the distance. It remained faint, but it was still noticeable enough to remind him that whatever had been making the noise might still be nearby. Looking back on the trip, Bear concluded that his heater setup needed improvement and that the MRE was only acceptable. But neither of those issues compared with the uneasiness created by the sounds and the unexplained figure in the woods. Dragging sounds can sometimes come from branches, debris, or animals moving objects through the forest. But why did this one repeatedly stop and return, and what was the light-colored figure Bear saw nearby? Would you spend a freezing night alone in a forest already linked to decades of strange stories? For this camper, the cold was only part of the problem. Before the night was over, unexplained lights would appear beyond the trees. On January 27, 2023, the YouTube channel 401 Files uploaded a video documenting a solo winter camp in Dalby Forest, North Yorkshire. The area has long been associated with stories involving UFOs, unusual lights, cryptid sightings, and alleged cases of human and animal mutilation. The host returned to the forest both for the challenge of winter camping and because of its unsettling reputation.
I've brought you back today to a place that we have explored before. This was last year, and it's a place that has dogman sightings, creepy stories and evidence, cases of human mutilation, animal mutilation, UFOs and extraterrestrials, and everything in between. This is Dalby Forest, a large forested area situated on the east coast of Britain, and we're going to spend the night here tonight and explore.
Conditions were difficult from the beginning. Temperatures dropped below freezing, making even basic tasks and handling camera equipment increasingly uncomfortable. Still, he continued deeper into the forest, accompanied only by his dog, Lily. Snow covered the ground and the surrounding woods remained unusually quiet. After setting up his tarp and camping equipment, he tried to keep warm while conserving his phone battery in case he needed it later. The wind made the setup even harder, repeatedly pulling at the tarp as temperatures continued to fall.
I've just come into the woods, sat down, dropped my bag, and got my little lantern set up at the side of me. The forecast did predict that the temperature would be dropping significantly as the night progresses, but my God, it's extremely cold. I'm gonna get a hot drink on right now because I need to get something warm inside me. Lily's got her collar on, her illuminated collar, just for anyone that's interested. The colours tonight is green, so if you do see any green lights running through the trees behind me, it's likely to be Lily.
As darkness settled over the forest, the atmosphere became more uncomfortable. Faint noises and occasional movement could be heard somewhere among the trees. The wind continued through the campsite, causing the tarp above him to snap and shift. Then he noticed something farther away. Several small lights appeared near the distant horizon. They seemed to flicker, disappear, and then return.
There's some lights over there in the distance. I'm not sure what that is. My initial thought, well, that's Lily, obviously the green one, and she's really close to me, but those two white lights seem really far from the distance, but don't seem to be moving. And they're not constant, they keep going on and off, and one of them just got really bright, so I'll try and zoom in. And it's definitely not stars. We're looking at ground level here, right across the horizon. But it seems too far from the distance for me to go over that way and investigate. Yeah, I have no idea what that is at this point. Wow.
One green light nearby could be explained by Lily's illuminated collar, but the other white lights appeared much farther away. From his position, he could not determine what they were. The lights remained too distant for him to investigate safely. He managed to record part of the sighting, but the freezing temperature made holding the camera difficult. Eventually, the lights disappeared behind the trees without ever being clearly identified. As the night continued, the isolation became more noticeable. His limited lighting allowed him to see only a short distance into the surrounding forest. Whenever the camera light was pointed toward his face, the area behind it became almost completely invisible to him. That uncertainty felt even more unsettling because of Dalby Forest's reputation.
I've said this before, but I'm really going to quickly just throw this in there once more, is that when I'm filming like this, the light on the phone is shining at me. Granted, I've got this little lantern in my hand right as well, this little thing here. But the downside to that is that behind the camera right now, I can't see anything. So technically something could be stood only a few meters away from me and I would have no idea. That's a terrifying thought.
During the camp, he discussed stories connected to the area. Whether those stories were folklore or something more, they added another layer of tension to an already isolated night. Later, he looked through the tree canopy toward the Pleiades star cluster. He connected it with reports and theories involving extraterrestrials and alien abduction claims, reflecting on the mysteries people have associated with the night sky.
I'm just looking up through the tree canopy right now and I can quite distinctly see the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades constellation. You know, there will be many other constellations out there where life forms are leaving and returning day in, day out. But the one that keeps cropping up, if we go off eyewitness testimonies and abduction claims, is the Pleiades constellation. You know, a lot of these people come back and report that these beings come from around that area.
Eventually, he managed to fall asleep. But by the end of the camp, the distant lights had never been explained, and the subtle sounds around his shelter remained unidentified. Nothing directly confronted him that night. Distant lights can appear to flicker or vanish when trees and uneven terrain repeatedly block the viewer's line of sight. But if that explains their behavior, what was producing those lights deep in Dalby Forest? That's all for tonight's video. Which encounter gave you chills? Let us know in the comments below. Got your own experience? We want to hear it. And whatever you do, don't miss what's coming next.